Welcome to the Thriving on Purpose podcast, where we teach Christian entrepreneurs how to build a strong foundation of faith, growth, and skill to lead and thrive on purpose in life and business. And now, here are your hosts, certified coaches Elisabeth and Sebastien Richard.
Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of the Thriving on Purpose podcast. I am your host, Sebastien Richard. I'm here with my wife,
Elisabeth Richard.
And this week, we want to tackle prioritization. It's kind of hard to say, especially for a French guy like me. Prioritization. Okay, so we're going to talk about 4 proven strategies to prioritize your life and business. Right, Liz?
Absolutely. So this is super important. And we really wanted to cover this because we've seen a lot of people have a certain amount of success and yet have their priorities out of whack. And so basically you see the success part, but behind the scenes, you don't see the chaos part of the family life and everything else disintegrating, right? So we're going to give you 4 proven strategies that will help you prioritize your life and business because, as you know, here at Thriving on Purpose, we're all about helping Christian entrepreneurs thrive in both. We're this is really something that we want to help you guys with because we're trying to give you a middle ground between what you're hearing online and what you're getting from other people in the secular world that's very business oriented, but when it doesn't have a God-centered focus, then the life part kind of goes derailed, right?
Yeah, and I like how you put this, the middle ground, because see, as Christians, what we're taught in churches is to really thrive in life by having a strong prayer life or great relationship with God and other believers and reading our Bibles. But we're not taught to thrive in business at all. I mean, being pushed to be an entrepreneur, being encouraged, it's not something that's really talked about in church. More so than it used to be, but it's still a work in progress. So on the one hand, you have the church that teaches us to develop a deep spiritual life, but not necessarily a thriving business or financial life. And on the other hand, you have what the worldly teachers out there who teach us to basically crush it and make those millions and the millionaire mindset and all those. There's nothing wrong with being a millionaire, by the way, but if you make that your sole focus, you're off track.
Exactly. So how do we bring the vision of your heart, mind, and spirit into reality to get to that place where you really want to be, okay? Where you're accomplishing your vision and you're doing what God has put on your heart. So how do we get to those steps? How do we get to that end goal? We have to start by prioritizing our life. So that's the number 1 step. Live your goals, set your priorities, and focus on them. So as we know, we are human beings and not human doings. So it's impossible to focus all at the same time on being the greatest dad, the greatest mother, highly efficient entrepreneur, and the best husband or wife all in the same day. Let's be realistic here.
Unless your name is Sebastien.
Or Superman. So we wish we could be all of these things all at the same time and give our 100% in all of these areas all in one day. But honestly, that is quite impossible. So the secret is to not let the same area of responsibility go lacking every day. So that's very important. So, we know that in life, there's all kinds of things that happen, and this is why priorities are really important. However, you might have jotted down your priorities for that day, and something happens with one of your children or, a parent, a loved one, something urgent, and you might have to shift and change those priorities for that day. That could very well happen,
like
right?
They say, life happens.
Exactly. So you kind of have to learn to do a rhythm, okay? So a rhythm is basically on 1 week, you have met those areas, but you might have to change your rhythm. So it's not like a fixed kind of thing that you cannot move, because life does happen. So if your kids really, really need you on that day because, I don't know, they have a doctor's appointment because there's a problem that, showed up, you have to make that a priority if nobody else can take care of your child on that day, right? So that's where we're teaching you about a rhythm to be flexible, basically, because successful entrepreneurs get it done, yes, but good parents and good fathers and good husbands have rhythm and are able to be flexible, to be able to make time for their families as well.
And good wives and good business women and good mothers.
Yes, exactly. All male and female.
It's
right?
male and female, really.
Exactly. So I'm going to read you a verse. Proverbs 21:5 says, "Good planning and hard work lead to prosperity, but hasty shortcuts lead to poverty." So this is why it's important to plan plan your goals, plan your tasks, have a daily method of operation for your end goal. Okay, so
and just by the way, I was just reading something today interesting. You will reach your goals 40% of the time when you write them down.
Yeah.
So if you write down your goals, you give yourself 40% chance, a higher chance of reaching them, which is interesting.
Yeah, and there's
just a little parenthesis like
there's
that.
a lot of power in that, and we kind of like dismiss it. We don't, with the digital age, we're writing everything on our computers and have apps for everything. But when you write it, it goes into your unconscious mind, like it programs it in your brain. And it helps you to stay focused because you have this memory that's going to remember exactly what you wrote. That's why I love when let's say I'm reading a book that's got a lot of meat to it. It's very deep and it's got a lot of good content. I love to write it because I know that I'm going to retain it more than if I just read it and just forget about it. So every Sunday, I encourage you to take time to prioritize what's important to you for that week. So write down in your planner what your goals are for that week, break it down for the whole week, and break down every day what you're supposed to do. What is your daily method of operation to attain your goals at the end of the week, so that at the end of the month you've attained your goal, your monthly goal, and that way you stay on track and you're able to also attain your goals at the end of the year. Mm-hmm. See, people that don't plan don't achieve anything because they don't prioritize things that are important. They don't have a daily method of operation. They just are wishing it's going to happen, and they're just thinking if they work their business 2-3 days out of the week, some miracle is going to happen and they're going to be rich at the end of the year. It's not going to happen that way. You really have to have a plan, a set plan ahead to decide what exactly you need to do to meet that vision, to meet those goals at the end of the week.
And the daily method of operation, when Liz threw that my way, she just used the first letter. She went like, "What's your DMO?" I'm like, "What's a DMO?" so if you ever hear that DMO means daily method of operation, by the way.
Yeah, I learned that in the home business environment, I don't know, world, the world of home-based entrepreneurs. I learned that from listening to a good coach, and he was talking about the daily method of operation for sales or network marketing, home business, whatever you're in. You have your own DMO. So it's for you to figure out what is your daily method of operation to reach your vision and your goal, because your goals might be completely different.
And that's going to align with your rhythm, obviously, because there's a rhythm to your life that's going to be efficient. There's rhythms that are too fast for you. There's rhythms that are too slow for you. And therefore you have to find the rhythm that fits in with your lifestyle. But you have to respect after that rhythm. You have to make it and implement it as a part of your daily method of operation. Like, this is my rhythm. I follow that rhythm day in, day out.
And that's very important too that you mentioned that, because there's a lot of coaches out there that are completely unrealistic for parents that are trying to run a home business or are trying to, maybe they're coaches or maybe they're...
Yeah, one size fits all coaching, huh?
Yeah, one size fits all
you
coaching
have to do,
work.
50 calls a day, and you're only able to make 20 on a really good day. So it doesn't work, obviously, for you. For some, it might be 200 calls a day is a breeze. I mean, so everybody's different, and everybody has different lifestyles. I mean, obviously, the bachelor who lives home with his parents, who's still not out from under their roof and is starting his own business, has a lot more time than the busy parents who have a mortgage and who have 3 kids and whatnot. Obviously, the rhythm won't be the same.
Exactly. So when you're seeking a coach, that's very important to find someone that's going to give you a good daily method of operation for the type of business you're in, but also understands your circumstances. Not that having kids are an excuse to cop out and not do any work, because a lot of entrepreneurs are parents and they're juggling both, and they're exactly working what we're talking about, prioritizing what's important, but they might not work at the same speed. They might not work at the same rhythm because they do have those other priorities, as opposed to somebody that doesn't have children and, is alone at home with her spouse, for example. We just wanted to add that in there. Yeah. So focusing is also having the ability to ignore the things that will distract you from your priorities. Okay, so that's very important. What someone else deems a crisis may not be your crisis. So some people think everything is a crisis and need you to solve their problems all the time. So it'll be for you to judge what is truly important and what you deem is a crisis that needs to tend to, that you need to tend to. So
you determine your priorities. You determine your emergencies, not other people most of the time, usually, obviously.
Yeah, because if we get caught up into that, I have people reaching out to me sometimes for help that, are family related, and they think a crisis is I can't figure out how to stick my logo on my website, or, I don't know, I had a bug with Messenger and I can't figure out this thing with technology. Liz, help me because I'm pretty good in technology. They're going to, help Liz. And, I'm busy coaching. I'm busy doing podcasting. I'm busy doing my home business. And, I'd love to help them with their website, for example, or branding or whatever it is that they need help with. But I need to do that. I need to decide when am I going to have time for that? So for me, that's not a huge priority. It's not an important thing, because that's not going to help me build my vision and get me to finish my goal for the day and get me towards my vision, right? So this is where you have to learn to decipher.
And a good rule of thumb for that, for us, is to ask the simple question, is there blood?
He's trying to say that's how he decides if something's urgent.
Should I shift my focus and attention? Is there blood? Yes, there is. Okay, I'm coming. I'm going to help you out. I'm just kidding, of course.
We're just joking, but yeah, when you have 3 kids, you joke about a lot of these things.
And you learn to identify the blood-hurling screams.
The really important crises that kids have and the non-important crisis, you learn to decipher what's important and what isn't. But it's true. It amazes me to see how many people will reach out to you, for something that is urgent to them, but in reality, it's really not urgent. It's not important. I've had somebody text me the other day and say, please help, call me right back, it's urgent. And I called the person back, and it was a technical thing. Like it was, something that was really not complicated to solve, but to that person, it was like a problem, right? So for some people, they'll make a big deal out of a small thing. So you have to decide if it's a real emergency. Is that if you're going to stop, like in the case of the website, if I had stopped and helped that person create our logo on our website and do this and do that, like how much time would I waste in that day to help that person out? Now, I'm not against helping people, but there's a time for it. And that's what you need to learn, is that you can't just stop and drop everything you're doing if that time is so precious. And especially if you're a mom entrepreneur or a dad entrepreneur and you have other things to do. Maybe you're working another job, and maybe you're working on your goals, and your time is precious, and somebody else really wants you to help them do something. Well, you're going to have to set that time and do it more in a time where you're in a leisure mode, relaxed, and say, okay, I do have an hour to help you out with this instead, right?
Yeah.
The other thing is you may be missing out on tremendous opportunities in your life because you have not planned and put in order what it takes to go ahead to reach your goal and fulfill your vision. In this case, like when we talk about this, each person is unique, and we have a unique purpose that no one else can fulfill. And sometimes we think we have all the time in the world, but in reality, we're missing tremendous opportunities if we don't move ahead with the vision that God put on our heart. We don't have all the time in the world, and we'll talk about that later. So establish your own personal priorities so that you live your authentic life. You are alive for a reason. Pursue that reason with passion and live your true purpose. Okay? Step number two is acquiring the skill of guiltless prioritization.
And just a short parenthesis, you guys might be wondering, wow, Sebastian's unusually silent. No, we did not fight before the show. The only reason I'm unusually silent is because prioritization is not one of my strengths. Liz is the prioritization expert, and that's not just in our business, but in our daily life as well. So I give her the floor today, mostly because of that. All right, carry on, Liz.
So you can invest yourself in many good things, and even if these things are for great causes, will never bring you closer to your destiny. And this was a game changer for me, when I realized that a lot of things I was doing were all good, and was increasing my knowledge, were good causes, were helping people around me. But then I realized, is that, like, if my end goal, my vision is, for example, to be a coach, or to get to a certain goal in my home business, is what I'm doing every day on a daily basis actually bringing me closer to that goal?
Yeah.
Or am I wasting time, and it's just slowing me down to get to my goal?
And sometimes we waste time because we're scared. We're going to do stuff, I don't know, create memes on social media, for example, and give ourselves the illusion of productivity. But actually we're doing that because we should be calling people instead, and we just don't really feel like that. So we're just like, well, I'm building my business. I'm creating these memes on social media. I'm creating engagement on social media. But that's a secondary thing, So I'm just saying it could be the primary thing for your business, but in most cases it's not. So you gotta be able to gauge that in yourself.
Exactly. So when we talk about guiltless prioritization, most of us have been conditioned to help others in life, right? And not to be selfish, especially if you've been raised in the church or you go to church. We're taught to love others and help others and be there for others, and that's all super duper and great.
Most of us have been taught the acrostics of joy, right? Jesus first, others second, and yourself last.
And and people, friends and family may make you feel guilty for saying no to them. And this is one important thing I really want you to understand. If God has put this vision on your heart, and He's asking you to fulfill this vision, to fulfill your destiny, and to work as an entrepreneur for Him, then it is not selfish to prioritize your life to fulfill that vision God has put on your heart.
Actually, it is a priority because you're actually doing God's work. And that's the thing that many Christian entrepreneurs fail to see. They compartmentalize their lives, saying, well, business is business. And yeah, but if your business is something that was began with a vision that God gave you for your life, or a desire that you put in your heart, it's not just business. It's something else. It's something more. So you got to be able to think about that.
Exactly. So God had an appointment for you to serve others in the greatest way possible for you. Okay, so that vision is destined to you. You owe it to yourself and to others, to your Creator, to prioritize your life for your destiny. Okay, so that's going to help you not feel as guilty. When you see it that way, you'll understand that you're going towards something bigger than yourself. Because in the end, when you pull it off, you're going to be adding value to so many more people.
There you go.
Than if you would, I don't know, be part of a potluck supper that evening because you refused to say yes to that, right? And that would have helped certain people. But in reality, you can't be everywhere at the same time and give yourself everywhere.
Exactly. You have to develop the ability to say no, even to things that at first look might seem like this is really for a charity, it's for a good cause, it's going to help so many people. It might be good, it might not. You have to be able to evaluate that. And if you have a conviction, no, this is taking me away from what I should be doing, well, don't do it, even if it's for a good cause.
Yeah, exactly. So I want to give you this verse, Ephesians 5:15-17. It says, "Be very careful then how you live, not as unwise, but as wise, making the most of every opportunity, because the days are evil. Therefore, do not be foolish, but understand what the Lord's will is."
Exactly.
Okay.
Redeem the times. Yeah.
Exactly. So we have to keep that in the back of our mind. And there's nothing wrong with, helping out and stuff, and we're going to talk about that later. But I just want you to really focus on the priority is really what God has put on your heart, and to accomplish that vision, because we don't have all the time in the world, and we have to be mindful of our time. So Charles Spurgeon said this really great quote: "Serve God by doing common actions in a heavenly spirit, and then, if your daily calling only leaves you cracks and crevices of time, fill them up with holy service."
Oh, that's wonderful. I love Charles Spurgeon. And there was this guy once I knew. He was all ecstatic because he was an exhausted father. He had 2 kids. He was working full time, and he told me, he said, "I'm so happy because our pastor last Sunday was in front, and he said to the congregation, he said, 'Please think of young fathers, those who have young kids at home. Do not ask them to participate in all kinds of ministries and churches. Once in a while is fine, but don't over pressurize them and make them feel guilty for not involving themselves in church ministry on a continuous basis.'" So the pastor was basically saying, look, they have enough with their work outside the home and taking care of their families. That's their main ministry. That's their primary ministry. Don't take them away from that to, I don't know, go paint the inside of the church, or do stuff that is going to overtax them. They're already overtaxed. That's what he was saying. I thought it was interesting, and he was really happy because he said, finally someone said it, because he was the kind of guy who had his heart on his sleeve. He was a servant leader, and he always felt like when the church put up a need like that, he always felt like he had to volunteer, and if he didn't do it, then he felt guilty, he felt bad. So that's why we have to acquire the skill of guiltless prioritization.
Yeah, exactly. So writing your priorities down will help you to stay on track when distractions come your way. And I started doing that a while back, writing it down and visually looking at it. Because if you look at your daily tasks of what you need to do, and then someone calls you up and says, "Can you do this? Can you do that today, or so and so day?" Well, when you visually see what you're supposed to really prioritize, then you know if you have the time or not, right? So that's why it's a very good tool. And writing it down as well is really good, because then you can go back to the drawing board and reevaluate your priorities, because things in life might change, right? You might be having a baby, so you have to reorganize your priorities because the baby's going to take a lot of the room in your life. Or maybe you just got married and you used to be single, and you have to adjust to that.
And I like the writing down. We mentioned it earlier, how important it is, what it does to you when you write it down. It helps you reach those goals. And in neuroscience, they actually explain that when you do a gesture, it creates these tiny neural connections from, they explained it anyway better than I will right now, but so when you do something repetitively, So if you write it down, what it does, it creates these neural connections to your brain, and it kind of like programs your brain towards that. So there's something about the hand and brain connection that when you do it often, you don't write it down once, by the way. They recommend to write it down more than once, possibly maybe twice a day, to kind of like etch that in your mind as it becomes a part of your vision. Like not your vision, it is obviously a part of your vision, but as it becomes a part of your, you become like a heat-seeking missile that's on track for that very goal, and it becomes a part of your being once you do that. That's neuroscience, by the way. They explain that better than I would. But
yeah, so that's not prioritizing your daily tasks. That's more like when it comes to your goals, writing down the goals that you have for that month or that you have for that trimester, that year, and to rewrite them. And it's funny because when we started doing that a while back, like a few years ago,
and you look back at those goals, it's kind of funny when you look back.
How they change and they evolve. And it's really fun to see, because as you grow, your goals change. They become bigger and different, and your priorities change. And it's really nice to see how where you were at and where you are now, right?
Yeah, because at first I wanted to be president of the United States. Now I just want to be president of the world. It's like, it's evolved, right?
So to get back to what we were saying about prioritizing. So by prioritizing, you can see if you have the time and energy to be part of those things. So, your buddies may ask you to be part of sports. Maybe they want you to go out to the movies. A lot of people that are living the 9-to-5 job won't understand an entrepreneur and how they think and how they use their time, okay? Because most of the 9-to-5 people are used to having their bosses tell them what to do, tell them when to pee, tell them when to eat, tell them when to take their vacations, tell them when to leave with their kids because their kid is sick or whatnot, right? So they don't understand that the entrepreneur, so you are the entrepreneur, you are your own boss.
Yeah,
so
you march to the beat of a different drummer, and the drummer is you.
Exactly. And you have to make those tough decisions sometimes where you have to decide, I have a deadline. I have to get this certain thing done, this project that I started. And
even if it's the weekend.
Yeah, and sometimes you might not have a choice to say, you know what, I know it's Saturday, I can't go to this baseball game or whatever because I have to take 2 hours and finish this thing that I absolutely need to get done because people are counting on me to get it done, right? So that's all part of the entrepreneur, and it's for you to, you can't really explain that to people. I don't think they're going to understand if they're not entrepreneurs, honestly, but it's for you to set those knows and make time whenever you can, the next following time that you have free time to be part of whatever it is that they wanted you to be part of. So sometimes you're going to miss out. Sometimes they need to understand that some people will only get it when they see the fruit of whatever you're working on. Yeah. And that's really, really difficult because as we know, when you're working as an entrepreneur, the fruit doesn't always appear right away, right? And people see you working at it, it's taking months and months and months, and they just don't understand, why are they working so hard? And I don't see the millions coming in, I don't get it. And so you have this crock pot mentality where that by working on something and prioritizing and doing your daily method of operation, eventually you will have the success that goes with it, right? But people out there will not get that because they just don't have that right mindset.
Exactly. As an entrepreneur, you're like a busy little ant who's making provisions for your family. And the Bible reminds us of that illustration. In Proverbs 6, verses 6-8, we read, "Go to the ant, you sluggard, consider its ways and be wise. It has no commander, no overseer or ruler. Yet it stores its provisions in summer and gathers its food at harvest." See, the ant doesn't have a supervisor or boss that tells them to come into work 40 hours a week on a regular basis. It does it on its own, and that's what you are as an entrepreneur. You do it on your own. So those who do have a supervisor who tells them when to come in and when to take their vacation, they once that's done, their home is like, okay, whatever, party time or TV time or I'm free. But you determine when you're free, and sometimes you're not free when they are, and most of the times you work 80 hours to avoid working 40 hours. That's what an entrepreneur is.
Exactly. You're building something so that eventually you'll have more time and freedom and the finances to do the things that you really want to do.
But in the beginning,
right?
There's lots of hours, and you don't have as much time for leisure, so you will be missed and sometimes judged.
Exactly. So the step 3 is prioritizing your relationships. Okay, so it's very important and crucial that you select your friends and relationships around you.
Yeah, which kind of goes following the second point, right? Like when people start judging you for what you're doing, maybe it's time to step back a little bit and say, okay, let's evaluate my friendships here and my family members and people I'm with.
Yeah, and there's a little more to say, like before we talked about not feeling guilty and saying no, but this, we're going to get into the importance of the relationships that you choose around you. So Mark Twain said, never allow someone to be your priority while allowing yourself to be their option.
Oh, okay. No, let that sink in. That's powerful. Mark
Never
Twain.
allow someone to be your priority while allowing yourself to be their option.
I love that.
So how many times do we get guilted into being there for people that would replace us easily with the next available friend? Most people going nowhere are extremely bored and want you to be part of their circle for entertainment. Okay, I had a few...
It's funny word, huh? Fun and entertainment are nowhere to be found in the Bible. I noticed that. It's nowhere.
So I once had a friend, that I went out with to the restaurant, and she's a nice person. And some relationships may not be destructive, but a lot of them can be counterproductive into what you're trying to accomplish. And I was just sitting there and I was listening to her talk about movies and talking about, the mundane things of life. And she's not a bad person, a very nice person and everything. But, all I kept thinking about was what I wanted to accomplish that day and what I hadn't accomplished yet. And I really had a hard time being in the moment because I realized that, this relationship, as much as it's nice, it's not really something that I really need in my life, and oftentimes, people will want to, dump on you their problems and they really want you to help them. But then again, they don't really want to change their lives. And they you have a lot of these kind of friends, and basically they just kind of suck out your energy. Unfortunately, that's the way it is. And you want to be there for them because you're a good Christian and you want to help them out. But in reality, when you ask them to take an action to change their lives, you realize that they're very unintentional, and really they just want to talk about their problems. So you have to really decipher your relationships, because as a Christian entrepreneur, this can really take away a lot of your fruitful time. And as a mom, honestly, I'd rather be with my kids and my family than be pouring into somebody that's not going to do anything with it in the end either, right?
Yeah, this can really suck out your battery.
Exactly. And there's people that just want you around for a good time. They're bored, they've done their 9 to 5, and they just want to chit chat, and that's fine. And they can do that with other people that are like them, right? So it's not enough to invest money into your destiny if you waste time. Okay, so ask yourself this question when you're trying to evaluate your friends around you. How does this person fit into my destiny and purpose? To maximize the years you have left, clear the clutter.
The relational clutter.
Yeah, so we don't have all the time in the world to accomplish our vision. We have to remember that. In James 4:13-14, it says, "Now listen, you who say today or tomorrow we will go to this or that city, spend a year there, carry on business, and make money. Why you do not even know what will happen tomorrow? What is your life? You are a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes."
I love that verse, and it puts everything into perspective. I mean, in churches we're taught to be good stewards, right? I mean, and that's a great thing. I mean, we have to learn to be good stewards. God will not send growth where there's where people spend needlessly and where there is no good management. But we are solely taught of being good stewards of our money. And of course, that's essential. But our time, when you think about it, is more important than our money. Jim Rohn said, "You can always make more money, but you can never make more time." And that's so true. You can never make more time because you're allotted a certain number of days, minutes, and seconds. God knows exactly when you're going to die. Okay? So you are allotted a limited amount of time to do what you are required to do. If you want to hear the Lord say, "Well done, good and faithful servant," when you get to heaven, there's something you need to do for that. And the thing you need to do for that, you have a certain number of days to do it. So when we're taught to be good stewards, man, your time is so much more important than money.
Exactly. And in Psalms 90:12, it says, "Teach us to number our days, that we may gain a heart of wisdom."
There you go.
So be selective and determine your associations carefully. You may have to break away from unhealthy people and relationships. What kind of people strengthen and nourish you? Can you learn from these people? Do they encourage you to pursue your destiny? Or are they negative people making mountains of molehills? You know, I had an uncle that all he could do was, every project that I had, all he could do was tell me the 25 different things that could possibly go wrong with my project or what I was, going to do with Sebastien. And it was just so discouraging to listen to him. And honestly,
he was just, by the way, he wasn't mean. He was just very, very scared himself. And therefore he transmitted his fear in everything he talked about. So whenever you explained something you were going to do, right away you could see what would scare him in that. And therefore he would say, "But aren't you scared of this? Aren't you scared of that? Did you plan for this? Did you plan for that?"
Is that going to
show
happen?
you all the possible potholes or whatever would, scare the wits out of him.
Exactly. And most people that have negative opinions about what you're doing, most people are exactly very fearful and anxious, and the type of people that would never move in any direction, not even close to what you're trying to do, right? So that's the importance here. And, we have to remember that as entrepreneurs, we're trying to add value to people. We're trying to make a difference. It's already hard as it is to work your business, take care of your family, make everything else function, that you really don't need to have negative people just weighing you down, basically. So you really need to focus on, focusing on finding friends and people to surround you that are really uplifting and going to encourage you in what you're trying to do.
And by the way, we're not saying not to ever see these people again. We're just saying keep those people for the very, very special occasions, like Christmas and Easter.
You'll decide how often you want to see them. Like sometimes we'd actually joke around because I'd talk to one of my aunts and I would say, "Oh, that was so draining. Like I just want to go take a bath and, just relax because it was just so draining." And I'm like, "Well, I called her, so now I'm good for a good month or something." we just joke about it, but like it became really heavy, so there's relationships like that you don't want to cut ties, but you have to learn to make more distance, because if you realize that it is affecting you mentally, and it's stopping you from moving forward towards your vision, then there's a serious problem there, right?
There you go.
So in Deuteronomy 25:4, it says, "Do not muzzle an ox while it is treading out the grain." And when I read this, in this context, I thought it was funny, but I actually looked into it, and basically what it means is the ox basically is treading out the grain. He's working, but he needs to be able to eat at the same time. So if he wants to be strong and productive, he has to eat at the same time, okay?
Yeah.
So this is simple to say. If you are pouring into people that can never feed you over time, it will drain you.
Exactly.
Okay, so you have to have somebody who can feed you so that you can feed somebody else. So if you're an entrepreneur that's wanting to add value to people, you have to get fed too. So it's not like, we all know like to spend our time with God and to to spend time in the word and pray and all that. But we really need to have mentors, coaches, people around us that can pour into us, because life does get hard. There's hardships. There's things that happen in your life. You may have trials, and you need somebody to uplift you and encourage you when those times come.
And you gotta be very careful. In evangelical circles, we're often so taught to serve others that it's almost overtaught. And that's why we have so many spiritual burnouts. I was reading a story, was it 2 weeks ago, and it was on Facebook. There was a picture of a beautiful family. And as I read the post, I realized that this was the man in the picture was a pastor, and that was his wife, and those were his kids. And as I kept reading, I understood that the post was a sad one because the man had committed suicide. That pastor had killed himself. So probably we had an example there of someone who was pouring himself out, but not getting fed himself, not getting that much needed encouragement from his surrounding. And pastors are very, very liable to that, and they have to be careful.
Yeah, we've seen many stories, and for all kinds of reasons, some are just don't have the help needed. But this is why we're saying it's really, really important that you get a mentor at church. If you know somebody that's a really wise, maybe entrepreneur himself, and that's a Christian that can mentor you, that's a really a great way to have somebody pour into you. You can also seek a Christian coach. We're Christian coaches. We can help you.
You can reach out to us anytime.
Exactly. And it's really important that you find somebody that aligns with your way of thinking and your beliefs to coach you. So step number 4 is avoid social media overwhelm. Okay, so this is very important. You're like, why are you talking about this in prioritizing your life? Well, this is an important step because now with social media being such a huge part of marketing for our businesses, a lot of people have gotten lost in the priorities of it. Okay, so I got caught up in all of this and memes and doing this and doing that and growing my email list and creating PDFs and doing YouTube lives and Facebook lives and all kinds of things. And I had to stop and think, okay, what is a priority? What absolutely needs to get done to grow my audience, to grow my business? And what is just a waste of time? And what I can recommend you is to schedule your posts. You can schedule them through an app called Later, Later, or later.com. You can go on your desktop and check out that website. You can sign up free. They also have a paid version. And you can basically schedule your Instagram posts, Twitter posts, and Facebook page posts. It's really neat. It's a cool tool. You can take like an hour or two on a Sunday afternoon when you're quiet and just schedule all your social media things that you need to get out on the different social media platforms that you want. And you can use this free tool, or you can pay for the paid version. I think it just gives you more social media platforms. And it's really cool. So that way you don't waste every day spending like an hour or two doing this and doing that and then not doing any income producing activities for your business that day.
Yeah, and it helps, it frees that time up really, because when you post on social media, especially meaningful posts, stuff that's trying to gather attention or whatnot, it's very time consuming to make those engaging posts, and it's becoming more and more time consuming because people are becoming more and more, I guess I could say, difficult when it comes to, like, it used to be just a simple text on Facebook. If it was a good quote, would get tons of likes. Then it changed to it had to be, I don't know, colored or something, highlighted, whatnot, have little emoticons, associated emojis with it.
Social media is always changing.
And then it was like memes with a nice image. That was the thing, and now it's like moving memes, or like it has to be like a kind of like a video or GIF, or so it always evolves, and people always need more to be attentive. So it's can be very time consuming if you try to keep up.
Exactly. So with the other thing that you can do, you can start off like that if you're limited in your budget, or you can hire a VA. So a virtual assistant can help you schedule your posts into the later system, or she can do it herself. So a lot of people hire a VA to go through your different accounts and post for you. So you basically give them the content and they do the posting when it's the peak time for it to be posted and all. So you can get a virtual assistant through this the website Upwork. So UPWORK, Upwork.com.
Do they have some on Fiverr?
They have some on Fiverr, but most people recommend VAs through Upwork.
Okay.
So you can check out Fiverr too, but it's more like for logos and odd jobs. I know there's a few VAs, but I know that Upwork is the place where they get them, because there's some that work from the Philippines and they work from other countries where in their country it's really a good job to be a VA, to be in the marketing
it's paid in
world.
American dollars, so they're happy with that.
Yeah, and they're really good with technology and stuff, so you're going to pay a lot less to hire them as a VA to do your business. So that's why a lot of people will deal with them, and that can be a huge time saver, especially if you've grown your business quite a bit and you just are overwhelmed with doing all of this by yourself. So we know it's all very important, because social media today is super important to grow your business, but it's important that it doesn't become such a priority that it takes you away from your prioritizing your life and the income producing activities for your business.
Yeah, and I think another part of the social media overwhelm is to, when you're growing yourself, you're growing your business, you're into personal development, there's so many courses out there. We're bombarded on Twitter, Facebook with ads of all kinds for course of this, course for that, learn how to do this in half the time or whatnot. So we have all these gurus and leaders and teachers presenting their services, and that's all great because you have options. But on the other hand, Liz, could you tell a little bit what happened to you along the way when you were trying to build our website and you wanted to learn all those skills to really become good?
So as an entrepreneur, there could be a huge pitfall when it comes to learning, because you want to learn so much. There's so many things out there in your face telling you got to learn this skill to grow your business.
And they even tell you, if you don't learn this skill, your business will crash.
So, like when it comes to marketing and branding and all that, it could get very overwhelming, depending on what niche you're in as well. And, you can be completely bombarded when you go on your news feed. And that's something that I learned to do, is to really prioritize, because I realized that I was just buying a lot of courses. Some courses I hadn't finished. Some coaching programs I was part of, not fully engaged and part of it 100%, because I just was all over the place learning so much from different coaches and different people. And one thing I realized is that, everybody has a different road to success.
There's more than one way to skin a cat. I never understood that. Skin a cat? I mean, that's really gross when you think about it. Anyway.
Yeah, so you just got me off my train of thought. But there's a lot of different roads to success, right? So a lot of people did a certain thing to get a certain result, and it worked out for them. So you really have to look at, when you're looking to learn from somebody, whether it is to buy a course, whether it is to have them coach you in your business, you really have to look at the methods. How did they do this? Is that a method that I'm willing to do? Because there's a lot that goes into it. If the person you're following is an introvert, well, chances are they did it in a way that is comfortable for an introvert.
Yeah.
If the person's an extrovert, then they might show you a way that you're not at all comfortable with if you're an introvert, and might not be at all something that you want to do to grow your business, or maybe you're just not ready for that at that time. So,
or if they have experience, I don't know, you might be just starting out and you grew up on a farm, and maybe they are people who worked in corporate America for 30 years, and you're not at all on their level. And I'm not saying you should start with someone who's on your level. Obviously, you need someone who's higher than you. but maybe you want someone more relatable, and that's a possibility as well. You have to find someone who's relatable.
Yeah, so that was a huge lesson for me, was to really ask myself, okay, is this course, what I'm going to learn right now, is it really essential to bring me towards my vision, to bring me towards my destiny, to what my goals are? Is this really important? Is it a skill that I need to learn? If yes, okay, then make a priority of doing it. And don't take more than one. Try to do it completely, finish it. And then if there's another course that you had in mind, that's the second step that you need to learn, then do it after.
Because courses are expensive.
And honestly, the knowledge that you learn, if you don't implement in action, will get you absolutely nowhere. And that's another thing I learned in the last few years. So basically what I did was I went back to a lot of the courses and I tried to finish most of them so that, I didn't waste my money, tried to implement, and I'm still doing that with some courses because I want to be better and I want to get better at my profession. But I also don't want to waste my money, and I don't want to not implement at the same time, because I learned years back that head knowledge is great, but if you don't apply the action to it, you are not going to get the results you want. So that's very, very crucial. So when you get into the news feed and you see people promoting webinars for all kinds of things that you want to learn, just remember, is this crucial? Is this super important? Am I already doing something I haven't finished? If yes, finish it first before you get involved in something else.
Yeah, it's kind of like the shiny object syndrome, right? I mean, you're doing one thing and you're like, oh, he said I should do that too. So, and then you start, I'm going to pay for that course and I'm going to do that. But then you're just a dabbler. You just end up dabbling in so many things, and you're accomplishing zero, like you said.
And like I said, many coaches have different roads to success. I recommend not following more than one or two coaches that are
at a time,
ideally, if we're talking about one-on-one coaching, you should only have one.
No, yeah.
But when I'm talking about online people that are teaching you skills and different things, you shouldn't be following more than one or two, because if you start following too many, you're just going to get completely confused. You won't know if you're coming or going. And most people would even say follow one, and whatever method they're showing you, execute, do it, implement and do it so that you get the result that you're looking for. And it's the same thing works with social media. If you don't want to do this system that I was showing you with later.com, you could just master one social media platform and just decide, okay, I'm just going to make it on Facebook. And when I do decide to spend time on social media, it's going to be only on this platform. Increase your following on only one platform. Some people like to do it that way, so that they get the results that they're looking for.
And every social media platform has their own personality or feel for. So you might resonate more with Facebook or Instagram or Twitter.
Depending on the business that you're in.
Depending on who you are and what you're like, and what are your likes and dislikes and strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah, and also what you have to offer as a business.
Definitely, yeah, that weighs in the balance for sure.
Right. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this podcast. If you did, please share it with your friends and your fellow entrepreneurs. Thank you for listening to this podcast episode, and you can also subscribe to get our latest episode into your inbox. Just go to thrivingonpurposepodcast.com. Be blessed
and thrive on.
Thanks for listening to the Thriving on Purpose podcast. Be sure to visit thrivingonpurpose.com to access the show notes and to discover more fantastic content. Until next time, be blessed and may you thrive on purpose.